disorganized here. As you can see, things have been bananas. I'm gonna go ahead and say it, but you might remember that I made some autumn leaves about a week ago, and now I am getting around to getting them quilted. And today I want to show you how I do orange peel style quilting, and I'll give you a little close-up. And I'm not going to use any marking tools, and I'm going to use my free motion machine, which is why I have this handy dandy, so convenient articulating camera arm here. We're going to see if I can do this without it completely blocking my way so that you can see me do some quilting. So just to introduce my machine here, this is the Handy Quilter Sweet 16. She's a sit-down, long arm, mid-arm, I'm not even sure what you would call it, but obviously she's just got a lot of throat space here, neck space, whatever you like to call it. But you can do all of this on your regular machine if you have a free motion foot. That's all it is. And this machine always has a free motion foot on it. This is the only thing it does. It's a free motion machine, which is why I use it to do free motion. Then I don't have to change the feet over here, which I used to have to do before I had this machine, so I know it's possible. But this is gonna make it a lot easier for you to see what is happening under the needle as I'm moving this around. So if you wanna be able to do orange peel quilting, check me out. First step, we gotta glove up. Oh yeah. So this is gonna be, these are little grippy gloves, and you can use, they make like gardening gloves, they make gloves for carpentry. You can get these at a hardware store. These are ones that are special for sewing, and I got them because even though they look super bizarre, Angela Walters, the quilter, has these, and I want to look like Angela Walters. So I've got my peace sign quilting gloves. Okay, so this is my sewing machine view on this. Let's see, we'll see if that works. I think this is gonna be pretty good, because what you really wanna see is what's happening over here with the needle and where I'm guiding it. So the reason I don't have to mark this is because it is a grid, and it's a pretty easily visible grid for me. And any quilt that I do that is pieced in a grid or close to a grid, like this one's not a perfect grid, you can see that there's no seam here, but I can imagine where the seam goes if this were a grid. I can just imagine what halfway down this rectangle is going to be because of the grid around it. So anytime I have a grid, I can do an orange peel quilt, no big problem, without marking my quilts. And you know, if you've watched me for a while, I hate marking quilts. I just don't trust the pens. I don't want to, rely on them to have the ink come out. I just don't trust them. So I don't like marking my quilts. I have a Hera marker, which could help in this case, where I can maybe mark where that imaginary grid is on here. So this is my Hera marker, and I can mark, if I think it's going to be a problem, where that line continues. And I'm not actually marking it with ink. I'm just making an impression in the batting. Okay, so I'm going to start at one corner, and I'm gonna pull up my bobbin thread. And then I'm going to go back over where I put my thread in and take a couple stitches. Now you'll see I'm just gonna do a serpentine line up the side of this pillow, and I'm gonna go pretty slowly, and this is how slowly I would go regardless of what I was quilting. All right, I don't know if you can see because the machine is so bright. Does that help? I don't know if it does. You can see that I've taken a little semicircle outside of this square on the grid, and then I've gone the opposite direction and done a semicircle inside this square of the grid. And I'm gonna do that alternating back and forth the whole way up, and then I'm gonna come back down going the opposite way, so I'm completing those little semicircles into little ellipses around each side of these squares. And I'm gonna go at the speed that I would normally go to ensure that I'm getting nice even stitches, because I don't have a stitch regulator on this machine. And if you are using your regular domestic machine, it's possible you don't have a stitch regulator either. A lot of fancy machines have stitch regulators built in, but those of us without that have to just go really slowly and practice getting nice even stitches. I'll turn this back on. Okay, and I'm at the top. And if you're watching really closely, which don't watch that closely, you might see some of my arcs are very big and fat, and then some of them might be a little skinnier, and that is fine. That is part of doing this by eye and by hand, and they're not all going to be even, but in the context of the whole thing, you're not going to notice any differences in your arcs. So I stop and start when I have to adjust my hands to be moving this around, and that's okay, but I want to fully stop so that I don't have any skipped stitches or any stitches that are uneven. Now I'm going to do one arc, either over or under, on the bottom square. And then I'm going to go up the same way that I went up the other side, and once I get to the top, it's going to be a little different. Okay, I'm at the top. This is my little border. I am now going to go all the way around to complete the circle around this square. And then I'm going to loop underneath like the opposite arc. And then I'm going to come back down, but every time I come down, before I go on to my next alternating arc, I'm going to go and do the same thing on all of these horizontal squares, all these horizontal lines on my grid. So around the top, around the bottom, and then again. Okay, I'm going to go down, around the bottom, around the top, and down the other way. Okay, now that you've seen the pattern, I'm going to speed up just a little bit. So I'm still going to go top, bottom, down the other side, top, bottom, down the other side in my same pattern that I've been doing. But just know that if the video speeds up a little bit to take you through this process, that is not me stitching any faster. I am still going that same slow, even stitch speed. Okay, now that I'm at the bottom, I'm going to do the alternate way. What I mean is down here, I only went one way on the bottom of my pillow here. So I looped down the bottom. Now I'm going to loop over the top of this stitch line and go up the other way and come down just as I did the last time. All right, now I'm to the squares that don't have a perfect grid. This is a rectangle rather than a square. So if I want to, I can use my Hera marker again to show where the line would be. Full disclosure, I usually just eyeball it, and I just don't care that much because honestly, when you see the whole thing, you don't really notice any mistakes. I don't think. and that I care about. And I'm gonna mark it with my hair marker on this one. Okay, I'm gonna do the last 2 columns with the camera off. I'm gonna make sure that I eyeball where this would be if it were a square. So I'm just gonna look at where the actual squares meet up because this part is not part of the grid. So I'm just gonna eyeball that. And then we'll do the final part on camera, and that really didn't take very long. So I'm already on my last column here. I went around the corner, up and down, then I went around the corner and completed my circle in the border of the right side of the quilt. And then I'm just gonna go up this last column, and then I'm gonna do the full circle at the top, do all of my, whatever you wanna call these, internal lines. And then my last step is gonna be to complete this line across the bottom, all of the half arcs that I did over here, and I'll have to end up all the way back at the beginning where I started. And that's when I'll be done. Turn the machine back on so that you can no longer see clearly again. Complete my circle at the top. This one I have to just imagine a line right here. Okay, well that one got pretty wonky, but again, it's just not gonna show. All right, I'm back at the bottom of this row, so all I have to do is finish the arcs at the bottom. I'll just take a couple stitches, just like I'm back tacking on my regular straight stitch machine, and then I'm done. Lift my needle, trim my threads, and let's take a look at her. Look at her shine. As you can see, any wonky circles, any uneven arcs, they really just blend in. And the more you do it, the more even your arcs get, or the less you care about whether your arcs are even. So either way, win-win. All right, there you have it. Easy orange peel quilting. Bye.